Hello, how is it going, Rap Cells? We are live for the first time, the Great Lakes Perspective live on Real American Politics. How is it going, everyone? It is quite a surprise. I know many people were not expecting this. Um, but yeah, we have a live stream today. I know it was slightly later. I got stuff. Now, typically, what we're going to be doing usually is I will be doing the night streams. I will be doing the evening streams, and John Rose will be doing midday. Today we had to have it reversed because I'm busy tonight. So I will be live now, just going over the basic daily news like John usually does. And John will be on tonight, where he goes on about the New York City mayoral results as they're coming in. So I am here to take care of the rap cells today. I thought we could go over a lot of news, and believe me, there's a lot of news going on today. And I will be reading things as well. I will be reading the chat, and obviously, sorry for the lighting. Kind of a shitty lighting situation at the moment. Obviously, new backdrop. Don't have the city at night because it's not night. So this is the war room. We are going to be talking about a war that may have just been averted. So basically what happened this morning, and I will be looking at chat as well. Feel free to send super chats. The goal is 10 super chats, it looks like. I don't know. I don't know how this whole system works. I'm not used to streaming with monetization, but I am definitely used to streaming. People who know me from my channel, which seems like there's a decent chunk of people in chat who know me from my channel, do know that I do stream pretty regularly over there, at least had in the past. No, Ron Paul, I will not be unbanning you from my Discord for unspecified reasons. Anyways, let us start by talking, and obviously if we get super chats, I will read them, as I always do. Well, I mean, I haven't been on a stream before, but as I hope to set the precedent today, I will read every super chat. Okay, we have one right off the bat. What happened to Real American? We have been invaded by the Chinese communists. Grab arms and some beer, boys. It's time to fight back. I know, very sad. CCP Luke, you know. That is what the people have been talking about. But no, I am a person who is here to stay. You're gonna have to put up with me for a little bit, at least till John comes on tonight. But you guys might be happy to know that tonight on the live stream you will be having John Rose instead of me. Iran and Israel, two R words fighting each other. Not going to agree or disagree with that. There's a lot of opinions when it comes to this. I'm just here to promote the news to you guys. I'm not going to be giving my opinions. Blame On Point. No, we're not going to blame On Point. We're not going to be doing it. Please don't be spreading like drama in the chat. It's no point. Doesn't help anything. But yeah, let's get into the news, and I'll obviously take a look at the super chats down the line. So what ended up happening this morning was, actually start off yesterday, Donald Trump announced on Twitter there was a ceasefire between the Iranians and Israelis, excuse me. But basically right after that happened, CNN found a Iranian source, we don't know who it was, who said, actually, Iran never received a proposal. This was made up. And then Iran came out a few minutes later and said, nope, it's real. We got it. So they got a ceasefire. And then last night, when the ceasefire was supposed to be done, so basically this is what usually happens with ceasefires. Typically, the ceasefire doesn't happen right after the agreement's set. It's like in a couple hours, everyone will lay low. Israel decided to use the fact that, it's a couple hours from now, to, instead of just laying low, fucking quadruple the amount of bombs they're sending. So they end up going from just doing a little bit of bombs to launching their entire arsenal basically at the Iranians. And Iran did a little bit of that too. And then this morning, after Israel's ceasefire was supposed to break, what ended up happening was there was one Iranian missile that was fired and hit. I think it missed. I don't know. And then Israel decided to fly a shit ton of planes over. And that is what prompted Donald John America to make the quote that is the name of this live stream. I forgot the quote. This is not good for my first live stream because, StreamYard, whatever. But you guys have all seen the video. Trump was very pissed off. He was just like, these two countries don't know what the fuck they're doing. Because he's right. These two countries are fucking insane. And that's an issue. They shouldn't be fucking insane. We should be getting some like basic agreement set. And obviously, I think Israel is a bit more to blame on this. And people who know me know I'm not one of these kind of hard right people who's not a big Israel fan. I don't really care. Like, I mean, I wouldn't call myself a big Israel fan, but I'm not a big Israel hater either. I like they exist the same way I like Saudi Arabia exists as kind of like an ally in the Middle East. But I don't think that we should like be basing our entire foreign policy around them. And I think too, when they do stupid things like this, like one Iranian missile hits slightly after the ceasefire, so we're going to send a bunch of planes out. And obviously, after Bibi got on the phone with Trump, they ended up taking that down a bit, so the planes didn't end up actually reaching there. But still, I think we do have to get to a point where we're not as reliant on Israel, or we at least like don't just let them do what they want. It seems like that's what Trump's starting to do, but I kind of wish he'd be a bit more tough on that. I don't think he should just be like kind of bowing down to them. But I will say overall, a lot of us over the past week to 2 weeks, as all this stuff has been happening with the bombs, with Israel, with Iran, all the stuff that's going on, I will say a lot of us should have just trusted the plan, because we had thought, because it does seem like the bombing's done, at least as of now. Not saying it won't start up in the future, but Donald Trump became one of the few people in American history, one of the few political figures who managed to get involved in the Middle East directly and somehow not escalate things. And that is something that I think we must appreciate Donald John America for, is the fact that he managed to get us involved just for like a minute. Like JD Vance said, these guys, they woke up in Missouri. Actually, there was one girl, and the media made a big deal about that because JD Vance said it was our boys, but there was like a couple women who did it too. So the men and women woke up in Missouri. They flew the bomber all the way to Iran, never touched down once, just did a refueling in the air, flew it over, hit 3 targets, minimal casualties, and then left. That was it. And nothing, and a couple days later, the war's over, at least officially. Yeah, technically some stuff could happen soon, but whatever. Okay, a glitch DV for 2. Luke should become president of the Middle East. I like it. I'd be open to the proposal. It hasn't been offered to me yet, though, but I would be open to it. But yeah, I do think that overall, we should have trusted Donald John America. Don't be a panicking. Don't be any of that. What we needed to do is just trust him all along. He knows what's going on. Another super chat from a Glitch TV. What up my unclear? I have no idea what that's supposed to mean. I have no idea what that is supposed to mean. So I read the super chat, but did I say something I wasn't supposed to? I don't know. What up my unclear? I have no clue what that's supposed to say. I don't know if Rap is watching. Does he usually get super chats like this? Yes, Sar. Okay, we got some Indians in chat, it looks like. We love to see it. We love to see the international audience. Tester is done. Member for 19 months. Look how far we've fallen. I'm not going to read that. We do not do racial remarks on here. But thank you, Tester is done, for being a member for 19 months. Yes, so what else is going on in Iran? Bro, these super chats are getting me, like, messed up. It was just like, at Luke, how's it going? I guess this is kind of my first time being at the front of the stream. I like it, though. And obviously, I'm used to doing this more at night, so that's what we're going to do down the line. But yeah, overall, I think this entire Middle East thing has been a pretty big success, because we also did get word as of a little bit ago that Iran is now open to making talks with the United States. So we are going to get Iran back at the negotiating table, and that is a net positive. After everyone was saying we were going to war with Iran 3 days ago, it was World War III, all this stuff was going to happen. And Now it's not happening. It's over. So I think that we do have to appreciate Trump for this. We should have trusted the plan. A lot of us didn't. Even me, from time to time, I was having doubts. But we should have trusted the plan. We should have trusted Donald John America. He's been proven right on foreign policy as of this far. Obviously, he still has the capacity to do wrong. And when he does do wrong in the future, because he will do wrong on a lot of things, it is best that we, the base, you and me, we are the base. And everyone else who voted for him, not just the real American chap. But you guys get the point. All of us need to pressure him to do better. Because there's some talks that he's getting kind of more hawkish on the Ukraine stuff, and that's not good either. We don't want a hawk president-in-chief. Now, what happened in Iran turned out pretty good, but a lot of it kind of was unnecessary. We didn't need to do a lot of the stuff we did. But I still think it's a big net positive that we got it done, and I think we do. This was a good test because we wanted to see, even though nothing big came out of this, what we saw is that a lot of the base did get very upset at what happened with Iran. A lot of the base did. And that is a net positive. That goes to show that people care enough to call out the president. And that's what we need. That's what we need from the base. Midnight Messenger for 2. Trump sounded pissed at Israel this morning. Yes, that's what I actually named the stream after. Trump was extremely pissed. If you look at how he was when he was getting on that plane, he's going to a NATO summit, which we'll get to that in a minute because that's going to be a very big kind of story. But yeah, Donald Trump was extremely pissed at the Israelis this morning because, again, he was talking a little bit about Iran, but it's clear that, like, Iran, the most they did, there was like one missile that went after the ceasefire. And then Israel took that as an excuse to, like, hey, even though the ceasefire ended like 20 minutes ago, we're going to send a whole armada of planes, basically. Is that a word? You use armada? I know you use armada for boats. Can that be used for planes? Whatever. You guys know what I'm saying. So an armada of planes basically like flew over to Iran. Luckily, Trump got him to stand down, but still. Speaking of which, we just mentioned the NATO summit. That is going to be a big thing today because at NATO, they are going to be debating the 5% the 5% rule. They basically want to have 5% of all these countries' spending going to defense, which I think is a net positive. And you may be asking, why? Don't you oppose war? Don't you oppose this? What the 5% thing does is it makes Europe split the bill a little bit because the United States currently spends about that, a little less than 5%. So if we were going to make our spending about defense spending 5%, wouldn't be too big of a deal. But what it would do is it would force the Europeans to pay a little bit more into it because this is what we have right now. Right now, what we have is basically a system in NATO where the United States is the only country in NATO that hits their defense spending target. Only country. I believe Poland might, but it's just barely. So outside of Poland, America is by far and away the one who promotes it the most. And also, I believe it's like 60 to 70% of all of the funding for NATO comes from the United States of America. That should not be how it is. There's more people in European Europe than there are in America. They are in more direct threat to the Russians and Chinese, who NATO is supposed to be against. And again, I'm not saying I'm necessarily pro-NATO. I'm just saying if we're running under the assumption that we're not leaving NATO anytime soon and that it's here to stay, that's the assumption I'm running under, not if we left it, which that's a debate for another day. I don't think the United States should be splitting the bill so long as we're in NATO. And I think you're seeing a lot of these kind of European leaders, for example, Pedro Sanchez in Spain. Ironic, his name is actually the same name as the guy from Napoleon Dynamite. Always thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, Pedro Sanchez, who's the prime minister of Spain, basically said, we're not going to do this. We're going to veto it. And I've got one thing for them. You don't want to pay the 5%. You're more than welcome to leave NATO. Nobody cares if Spain is in NATO or not. Nobody cares, okay? You guys are at no risk. I don't even know why countries like Spain are in there in the first place. Is Russia going to bomb Spain? They're already in the EU. So, like, most of the EU's in NATO anyway, so it's not like they're going to really cause too much of an... Like, it's not like Russia could just invade Spain without consequence. You don't get to do that. I don't even understand why Spain would be in NATO. If they want to leave, they're more than welcome to leave. But they're insisting that, no, we're going to stay in NATO and we're going to keep having the U.S. split the bill. And you know why? Because he wants Spain to pay for the welfare spending. You're not paying for your welfare spending. You know who's paying for that is the U.S. Because the way you guys see it is that you want the U.S. to split the bill for the defense spending, while you guys just pay for your own shit. So while Americans at home are really getting like cooked, a lot of it, like you look at the populations, you look at the huge healthcare problem in America, you look at the a lot of the domestic issues the United States has. We aren't allowed to focus on those things. The Europeans, they see themselves, they're allowed to focus on those things. But if America dares cut NATO, it's because we're pro-Russia, according to Europe, you know? So Europe is able to spend as much money as they want on their domestic issues, getting those fixed. But America, we do that? Oh, no, that's horrible. You're sucking up to Putin. You're sucking up to Xi. You're sucking up to the third world. Or the East, the multipolarity, whatever it's called. And that's an issue. And I think people like Sanchez, people like Macron to an extent, a lot of these people who just want to just freeload off the United States should not be able to. And I think what we should be doing is we should mandate the 5% threshold. That's what we should do. And until we do that, Europe is going to keep taking advantage of us. Now, and I'm kind of going to keep this stream short. I'm just going over a rundown. I'm not going to really read chat. I didn't have any guests on today. In the future, I will have some guests on. So stay tuned for that. And this is kind of my inaugural stream too. But we can read chat a little bit real quick. Because then before we go, I was going to talk real quickly about the New York City mayoral race. And then I might touch a little bit on the Polish drama, but I don't think people really care about the drama going on in Poland. That's just something I'm kind of interested in. What is your prediction for New York tonight? I will get to that in a minute, but we will look. Feel free to send super chats as well. You are not supporting me. You are supporting rap still. Just because I'm on stream does not mean I'm the one reaping the benefits. A real American will be receiving the service. So if you're afraid to super chat because you think it's going to go to me and I'm going to spend it on God knows what, don't worry, it's not. It's going to rap still. So please super chat. We would definitely appreciate it for the channel. Spain fell off after the Spanish-American War. Can't disagree. Spain should leave so we can regime change it. Again, not a big fan of regime change, but whatever. Thomas Massey. I wish I had banning powers. I don't think I do. European leaders be like, Charlie Howard for 5, excuse me. European leaders be like, we hate the United States of America. But please, United States of America, keep subsidizing our defense men. Carry them. I am tired of their condescending attitude. I fully agree. This is a country. And at the same time they do that, the same time they spend all their money on like the social programs and shit. All of these Euro poors on social media and stuff, they're like, oh, America, you guys don't have free healthcare. You guys don't have free college. You don't have all this. It's like, why do you think we don't pay for those things? Because we're paying for your guys' defense because you guys are too lazy to do that. That's the issue. And these countries need to realize that, like, they got to step up their game. They got to be paying the bills. And so long as the United States is in NATO, I will be advocating for the 5% rule. I think it's totally reasonable. Or at least like a 4% rule. Or, at the very minimum, you guys have to pay at least what the U.S. is paying. You know why? Because we've been splitting the bill for so many years. And who's in much more direct threat? Is it us, or is it the people who are on the Russians' doorstep? It certainly isn't us, I can tell you that. So I think it's not like Europe is going to be paying for our defense. If there's a big war, it's going to be us defending the Europeans. It won't be the Europeans defending us. So I think at the very least, they should be paying at least what the U.S. is paying. That might be a hot take, but that is my position. And obviously, there's also a debate. Should we stay in NATO? Should we leave NATO? And I think that's a debate for another day. Sorry, I was just looking at chat for a second. I do not want a national abortion ban. I don't know who's saying that. I felt like I was known for being like the moderate on abortion on this channel. Just leave NATO immediately, or at least after the Ukraine war has ended. Again, not really a debate I'm going to be having today. I think there's a lot you can kind of go over, but yeah, I don't think, shoot, I did not prepare for this live stream. I'm used to having like 15 people in chat. Knox, what is okay? Total European spending towards NATO should be at least 50%. Okay, man. At least 50%. Okay, man. That's a bit much. Okay, and I'm all for Europe paying their fair share, but like, dude, that would not even Ukraine pays that much for their for their military, dude. That's okay. That's pushing it a little bit. 5% I can live with, not 50%. That would be like leave Europe to their own devices. I kind of disagree with that. Even if we were to leave NATO, I still think it is very important we keep good relations with continental Europe because they are part of the West. They're part of the West, and I think we do have a vested interest on what happens there. I don't think we should let them just take in the entire third world and just like completely lose their societies. I don't like that idea. I think that's pretty cringe. I don't even think we should let the Russians just like rampage through and take everything over. For the same reason we didn't let the Germans do that in the World Wars. We didn't want that. We don't want that to happen. And I think it's important that we do keep good relations with the Europeans. But should we keep those relations if all we're going to be doing is spending our entire national budget on protecting them? All spending should be defense spending. Rah. Yeah, that's basically the guy earlier. Yeah, that was from Mager Ballery. I'm not even going to try saying that name, but thank you for the $2. But yeah, when it comes to that, these groups, that comment beforehand, it's a bit extreme. But yeah, you can see how people are feeling that way. A lot of people don't want the Europeans to be just getting by paying like, oh yeah, we're going to put 1% of our budget towards NATO. It's like, and then America's out there putting like 3-4%. Like I said, 60 to 70% of our of the entire spending for NATO is done by the United States of America. Okay, object class Keter for 5. Leave NATO, then make a new thing with the 5% requirement. Only Poland, US, maybe Hungary, Finland, Baltic states, and Greece would be in it at that point. Honestly, I wouldn't. The idea of having kind of like a NATO that's like purely defensive, kind of just on like the eastern border of Europe with Russia, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But again, I don't think we should like, because again, that kind of gets to the point of like just like abandoning Europe, which I disagree with. I think it's important for the United States to have good relations with the United Kingdom, with the French, with even the Spanish, even though their current government is anyway. I think it is important though that we keep good relations with, including with Western Europe, especially because of the cultural kind of similarities we've had. The fact we came off that culture, we borrowed a lot of things. We even spread our things a lot with like the French Revolution being. Obviously, there was a lot of stuff that happened there that was a lot more extreme, but there was a lot of that aspect did come from America. And obviously, the whole liberalization democracy, that a lot of that started with the United States Revolution, even in countries like the UK and Spain, which do technically still have monarchies. Yeah, Poland and the Eastern European states are fine. Yeah, Poland, I believe, currently is the only other NATO member to hit their kind of like defense, hit the NATO required. It's not really required because no one hits it outside of 2 countries, like spending limit for the defense. So I still think we should try to enforce that better, but we'll see. But anyways, now we're going to move on. For the last segment of the day, unless I talk about Poland, which I don't think people in chat want to learn about Poland, we're going to be talking about, of course, the New York City mayor race. Who, by the way, you guys are lucky because I will not be streaming it. You will not have to sit through me being a schizophrenic. You will be sitting through John Rose and several other members of the rap server, such as Tyrone Powers. You guys are going to be looking forward to that. It's going to be great, isn't it? But yeah, that is going to be tonight's stream. They'll be covering the New York mayoral stream. But I think it's important to talk about because I've been seeing a lot of Republicans on Twitter talking about how we need to back Zohran. we should have Zohran win the primary, because if he wins the primary, we will flip the governor's office in 2026. And to that, this is what I say. I don't like this idea. That's accelerationism. You guys are no better than the people on the further right who are like, Trump should have lost 24 because then if Kamala won, that would make America more right-wing and it would like bolster the right. It's the exact same thing as that. Just on I'd argue, a much more local and somewhat worse scale. Zohran is a guy who openly supports abolishing the police department, replacing it with a bunch of social workers, openly talks about abolishing rent, talks about wanting to make every grocery store owned by the city. That is not normal. These are policies that will destroy the biggest city and the symbol of the United States of America. Now, am I saying I like Andrew Cuomo? No. But what I am saying is if I lived in New York today, I would have registered as a Democrat like 2 months ago, and that's going to be taken out of context, just so I could crawl over broken glass to vote for Cuomo. Not because I like him. You wouldn't have my vote in the November election, but simply to stop Zohran. Because I don't care if he's going to make the Dems look schizophrenic, look worse than they are. If you let someone like that destroy the symbol of America, the largest city of America, that would not turn out good for America. There's no way to put it. This isn't Minneapolis. This isn't even Omaha. This isn't a city like that. This is the symbol of the United States. Yeah, if Omaha elects a far-left mayor, who cares? You know? It's Omaha. Obviously, people in Omaha wouldn't be having a good time, but like, no one's going to be like, oh, look at Omaha from overseas. But what would happen if New York City becomes a city where a department of social workers are just patrolling the tunnels and being like, oh, there's another guy getting assaulted. Oh, he must be having a bad day. Let's tell him to politely stop. Or like people are nationalizing the grocery stores, you know, and paying off all the rent. Like no rent anymore. You know, that would not be a stable society. Object Class Keter for $2. I didn't mean East Europe. They are the ones at 2%. Yeah, Eastern Europe is... oh, yeah, I get what you're saying. So, yeah, when you said that, you weren't talking about East Europe. The reason I brought up, like, an Eastern Europe option was just because, like, then you could just say, like, yeah, it is purely defensive against, like, the Russians. And I think it is important because, like I said, I don't think we have to be enemies with the Russians, but I don't think they're never going to be allies with us. We're never going to have a common ground with the Russians. This whole idea that like you'll be able to pull the Russians away from the Chinese and they can become a U.S. ally, that's not going to happen. They're far too culturally different. If it was going to happen, it would have happened back in the 90s and the 2000s, back when America still had open relations with the Russians. That's never going to happen again. So I think it's important to stay allies with Europe, and I think it's important to not be increasing tensions with the Russians. We don't have to be enemies with them per se, but I think it's always good to be wary of them. The same way I advocate being wary of China, as much as people will say I'm a CCP butt. Obviously, I don't think we should send the entire U.S. military to defend Taiwan, but that doesn't mean I'm really a CCP bot. I think that we should be competitors with them. And I think the same thing with Russia. I don't think there's going to be no scenario where the Russians become a close U.S. ally. We maybe had a slight shot at that in the 90s and early 2000s, but it's long gone now. So yeah, that's just how things go. We're doing good over here in Arizona. Good to hear that. Voting looks good for Zohran, high in Brooklyn states. Inland islands makes up 2% of the vote. That's interesting. Again, now if anyone in New York is eligible, if anyone in New York is watching this, I'm going to encourage you. Vote for Cuomo. Vote for Cuomo. You might not like him. Crawl over broken glass to vote against him in the general. I don't care. But Andrew Cuomo will not completely cook the city. Okay? He might make it a little bit worse than it is now, but he won't make it a lot worse. And I think it is important when there's a lesser of two evils to vote for the lesser of two evils. Not to just sit it out and let accelerationism kick in. Because that does no one any good. Especially when we're talking about the largest city and the symbol of the United States of America. That's the thing I don't like about New York, this whole thing. And now, as for my prediction, what people have been saying, because some people, I think Midnight or someone else super chatted earlier today, they were like, Luke, what's your prediction for the New York mayor race? I think personally that we are going to see Andrew Cuomo probably win by about 2 to 4-ish. It's going to be very narrow. That is my take. I don't think it's going to be like a very lopsided election. I think some of the polls, I think Emerson's like the only poll, though, to show Zohran up. So we'll see. It's an outlier. They've been good in the past. But you got to remember, too, they were the one poll that showed Paul Vallis leading in Chicago back in 2023. So they're not really always the best in mayor races. I know, too, there's like the turnout, whatever. But it seems like Election Day is catching up, and that's going to be Cuomo's best demographic. So we'll have to wait and see. Mike Oxford for 5. When will West Taiwan... I'm not reading that. Fine. When will West Taiwan give back Tibet to its rightful owner, India? Inner Mongolia is also occupied southern Mongolia. Whatever, dude. You know, Tibet is not... look up what the Dalai Lama did with kids. I'm not going to talk about it on YouTube. Also, Inner Mongolia is 80% Han Chinese. It's not even Mongol anymore. You guys are trying to piss me off. I'm going to ban you from... I'm kidding. I don't care. Thank you for the $5, dude. Okay, Luke, the star of Rep Stream. I'm not the star of Rep Stream. I haven't been on Rep's call-ins since like last summer. I don't even think he does call-ins anymore. Luke is Dalai Lama. I guess you could say that. I guess you could say he might be. It's really hard to poll primaries. Yeah, it is very hard to poll, like, because this is the thing with polling. You might think that, like, oh, the smaller you get, it's the easier. You might think, oh, the bigger ones. It usually works that national polling is the most accurate, because when you're polling nationally, you got the whole country to do. The issue is when you're polling in New York, you don't really know for sure where these people live unless you like ask them their address. There might be a person who like answers these polls who's like in Yonkers or something, like the south side of Yonkers, like right near the border in New York City. And they'll be like, yeah, I'm voting for Zohran. They can't vote, you know? They might not realize that. So like when it comes to like those local polling, obviously New York City is a bit different because it's basically its own state in terms of like size. I mean, it's got more people than the state I live in. So the way that New York works is like, it might be a bit easier, but still it's when it comes to, it looks like new Jack Citarelli ad on his pinned. Okay, interesting. We'll have to look at that after the stream. But no, what I was saying was, yeah, New York City is obviously a bit bigger, so it's not going to be as hard to poll. But like we saw this with Chicago. Emerson, for example, had Paul Vallis. He was up by like 10 in their final poll. He ended up losing. When it comes to local polls, they usually end up not being very accurate. So we will have to wait and see. Most of the polls still show Cuomo up. Some still show Zohran up. And we'll have to wait and see. And I also got some interest. We had some interesting numbers today, too, from those polls. We saw that Zohran was actually, his best group was millennials. So Gen Z was voting for him by like 10. Millennials were voting for him by like 30. And then all the older ones were voting Cuomo. So you're seeing this again. You're seeing this age group where like, yeah, Gen Z still is somewhat left-leaning, but they're less left-leaning than millennials in like basically every possible way, including in Democratic primaries. How will Spider-Man affect the mayoral race? I don't know. Well, I mean, you know, they want to. He doesn't seem like a social worker to me, so I think Zohran might not be voting Zohran because I don't know. He uses some violent methods sometimes to like go after crime, you know. So I don't know. That might not fit in too well with Zohran's kind of social worker attitude when it comes to stuff. I expect okay, we got a new super chat. I've been on vacation and haven't gotten to watch any of the streams lately. Where is Rap? I noticed he hasn't tweeted in a week. Yeah, Rap is taking a bit of a hiatus. Me and John Rose have taken dual control of uploading and streaming on the channel, so you're going to have to get used to seeing me for a while. Luckily, though, John will be on tonight with Tyrone Powers, the favorite of the channel. I'm the fan disfavorite, as I believe Tester is done coined when I was still on his streams, when he still did live streams. He always said that I was the fan disfavorite. So I say that with the rap streams too. I'm the fan disfavorite. So yeah, that's what we run with. Off topic, K Cub for 5. Yeah, off topic, but I like when Showman talks about issues, but iffy on him doing things like the Newsom jab. As easy as that is. Thoughts on his campaign? I like Showman. As of right now, he's got my support in the primary. I don't really see anyone else. I don't think Tiffany's going to jump in. I think that lady from up north, who's kind of like a Rebecca Clayfish clone, she's the state Senate president. Forget her name. I know I'm a horrible local politics guy. I forgot the name of our own state Senate majority leader, but they don't really do much. Since when has a state legislative body done anything? Never. But yeah, she might run, and I'd still vote Showman. Yeah, so I'll say, yeah, vote Showman. Tiffany jumps in, could get a little bit iffy, but still, I like what I'm seeing from Showman. I like that he's running a very localized campaign, because that was the thing. My biggest concern was we were going to have a state run, like, because Schimmel's entire campaign a few months ago was just off of like, oh, Trump is, no, it wasn't Trump. Shit, no, it was just like Scott Walker, Act 10. The entire thing was just, let's protect Act 10. Let's protect Act 10. People in Wisconsin don't really approve of Scott Walker or Act 10 anymore. So I thought, like, if you want to win the governorship, you either got to run someone super national like Tom Tiffany, who's just like completely disaffiliated with the Wisconsin GOP, or you got to run someone local. And that's what Showman is. He's running on a local issue. He's the county exec of Washington County, which is like the stereotypical red Wisconsin county. So he's from the WOW counties, but he also is like kind of a populist when it comes to at least messaging on some stuff. He's running on like lowering taxes, like tough on crime, things like that. So there's a lot that he can do. So we'll see. I think Evers, that's another big thing. Will Evers run for election? We'll see. It's gonna be interesting. That's gonna decide a lot. We'll see. Maybe we'll see a Scott Walker moment where Scott Walker lost re-election in 2018 and kind of a shock upset. Maybe we'll see that happen this time. Maybe people are just tired of Evers. I will say that Wisconsin, since Tommy Thompson, it has not elected one party for 3 terms in a row for the governorship. So we'll see. Will Evers win again? Will a Democrat win again? Or can Showman keep that trend going? We'll have to wait and see. Well, I'm heading out. Yeah, I think I will be ending this stream pretty quickly. Last call for Super Chats. If anyone would like to get their message out to the community. If not, we will be closing the stream very shortly. And obviously, in the future, I'll be having guests on and stuff. It's not just going to be me. StreamYard is a great platform. It allows me to kind of add people on so I can add people on. But this was kind of just going to be my inaugural stream, me just talking about this stuff. So, yeah, feel free. Any last Super Chats, we'll give it, I think, 2 minutes or so. Lord Rhino for 10 UK pounds. What are your thoughts on the UK decriminalizing abortions and legalizing assisted dying? Labour Party is not for the people of Britain, as the vast majority are against these changes. I thought I did see a poll, though, that was like majority of the UK was in favor of May. I don't know about the abortion stuff, but I know that like the maid thing. I'm not condoning medical assisted dying, but I believe that that's popular in the UK. I could be wrong. Yeah, I disagree with that. I think the UK is odd on social issues because some social issues like immigration and trans rights they're like super right wing on, and then some social issues like abortion and maid assistance dying they're very left wing on. So I think it's quite interesting how it goes in the UK. I think Labour, Keir Starmer, I'm not really a fan of him, but I like some of the stuff he's doing. I like some of the immigration. I know people are going to be like, oh, he's only doing that because he lost the local elections. Well, the way I see it is if they're doing something good, I will give them credit for it. I don't care the reason. He's been very cooperative with Trump, which I like. Unlike a lot of these other EU countries like the Spanish, Mr. Sanchez there, who's like trying to cause a big like stir up with Trump and trying to stand up to Trump. Like Starmer's been kind of working with Trump. It was the first country that we got a trade deal with. So I don't hate him a lot. Obviously, I think the UK could use better leadership. I would encourage anyone next local election, by-election, whatever. I'd encourage everyone to get out and vote reform for Farage's party. But I don't hate Starmer. I think when it comes to like global left-wing leaders, he's probably one of the better ones, but that's not really saying much. I don't know. I just got like a slight. I got a soft spot for like every UK leader. I don't know. They're chill. We'll see though. I'm not a big fan of him though. I don't like a lot of his domestic stuff, but the foreign stuff he's been doing, the stuff he's been doing with immigration, I'm not the biggest opponent. Luke, thoughts on the New Jersey governor's race? I think as of right now, Jack wins. That's my hot take. And I think, too, I think Winsome in Virginia is not going to win, but I think people are being way too bare. Like, everyone's like, oh, she's going to lose by 10 points. I don't think that. I think that she's probably going to lose, but it's probably going to be within 5 points. I think there's going to be a lot of money put in. I know her campaign team isn't really the best, but I think you're going to see it change a lot. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, though. Opinion on the Liberal Democrats. The Liberal Democrats are the second worst party in the country outside of the Green Party. So take with that what you will. Yeah, I do not like the Liberal Democrats in the UK. Is Starmer better or worse than Carney? I'd say he's better. And I don't really hate Carney either. I don't really hate either leader. I think actually Carney is probably more cooperative with Trump than Pierre would have been. Because I think because in Canada, there's always this stigma that like the conservatives are always the pro-America party. So in effect, conservatives end up being like most of the time pretty like wary of being too close to America. So I think Pierre, especially in this timeline, would have kind of like done a lot of standing up to Trump, that type of thing. And I think Carney is kind of just like trying to make deals with them. So I don't really dislike either. Obviously disagree with them immensely on like domestic policy, but when it comes to like coming at this from an American standpoint, I don't really dislike Starmer or Carney, because that's the way I look at it. When I look at politics through an American lens, I look at like who's best for America. Obviously, if I lived in the UK, I lived in Canada, I wouldn't be voting for the Labour or Liberal parties. But as an American, I can like respect what they're doing to an extent. Tony Evers is aging fast. One of the photogs I work, I think you assume like photographers I work with filmed him walking up the stairs, and she said it was almost as bad as Biden. Evers tripped on the last step. I don't know if he runs. Oh yeah, Evers he's been doing a lot recently. There was some stuff with what was it? He was like doing that football thing, and it was like the worst throw possible. I remember he was mocked for like a month after that. Yeah, Evers, he's an interesting individual, but he's gonna be. Oh no, something in me tells me he's not gonna run again, and if he does run again, will he even win? Because you guys at the DNC, he had that whole hiccup where he like completely forgot what he was saying. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with him. We're not getting token on the stream. Those who know. You don't even know what a conservative is. I wasn't aware. Oh, he's adding someone else. This is why I should be reading chat. I should be just reading the super chats, but we're not really getting a lot because I know people aren't intrigued to donate to this guy, even though I'm not getting the money. Yeah, I guess Canada is better for Americans, but I feel bad about Canada. Yeah, but feel bad about a lot of countries. Feel bad about like Africans who can't afford, who can't, like, are starving every day. You know, like that's why I say like people feel bad about other countries, and it's like, how about feel bad about us a year ago? Because a year ago we had worse leadership than Starmer. Biden is dead. I would much rather live under Starmer than Biden. I will say that. Not saying either's good. They're not. That's not a defense of Starmer by any means, but I would rather live under Starmer than under Biden. Evers has been heavily hinting at running again. However, he's also really old, has served 2 terms, and he's moved further to the left. Could he retire? Or he could retire. Yeah, we'll see. Again, we'll have to wait and see. That's going to be something we'll be following. But yeah, last call for real this time for Super Chats. I think we'll get it to 50 minutes, and then we'll end it. If there's going to be no more Super Chats, we might cut it a little short. Oh, shit, the chat disconnect. What the fuck? Oh, shoot. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It said the chat was disconnected, so it looks like we're back now. Looks like we're back. Okay, yeah, we're back. There we go. You want to be put in jail for posting it? Well, that's not a Starmer-specific issue, though. That's just UK law. I guess I referred to like, yeah, I'd rather live in the US than the UK like any day of the week. But if like I had to choose between like a Starmer American presidency and a Biden American, I would pick a Starmer American presidency. No, but yeah, like the UK, like that's not a Starmer specific issue. Like the Tories, that's when you saw the majority of those free speech stories when was when the conservatives were in charge in the UK. So that's not really a labor specific policy. Should America join the Commonwealth? I don't know. I'm kind of like it's unofficial. It's just like a group of nations. It's like the Friends of Wales caucus in the Congress. It's like, are they actually advocating for a Welsh takeover? Like, no, it's all BS. Like, if Trump wants to join it, whatever. These aren't really pressing issues, though. Biden didn't send the police at your well, yeah, but that's not a Starmer specific policy, and I don't want to take this as defending Starmer, but that's just UK law. Europe has never had the free speech America has. Like let's get that straight. Like every country in Europe has, even the more right wing ones have restrictions on speech. There's no country in Europe that has abject free speech like the United States does. So yeah, 2 minutes. Last call for super chats, and we're going to end it at the 50-minute mark. I'm also expecting Tim Walz to retire as well, especially after the assassination. I don't know. Are we allowed to talk? Well, John Rose the whole stream about that, so I can say assassination fiasco. Yeah, we'll see what comes out with that. Did he do it? We'll have to wait and see. I'm not gonna insinuate either way. Please don't sue me. F. Tim Walz lies. We all know he hired the. Okay, I'm not going to read that. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get in legal trouble. So we're not going to read about that. Boomers in Door County see Evers. I love how it's the boomers in Door County. This guy just knows everything about the state. It's like, yeah, Door County boomers see Tony Evers as an idol for some reason, probably because he started making Wisconsin Democrats strong statewide again. Partially, yeah, because this is something I will say about Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a state that seems to be moving to the left at the state level, but red at the federal level. Like the way I see the future of it could be like a reverse New Hampshire, where it usually votes Republican. Because like the way New Hampshire goes, entire state government dominated by Republicans, entire like federal level dominated by Democrats. I could see it being reverse in Wisconsin. I could see Wisconsin becoming like a somewhat reliably red state at the federal level while being kind of a blue-leaning state at the state level. So I could definitely see that happening. Luke, if you had to live under Tony Evers or Tim Walz, well, easily Evers. That's not really a question. Not that Evers is good, but yeah, Tim Walz is a mess. And also, we got the state assembly and state senate in Wisconsin with pretty big majorities. So, but outside of that, no, I think Tim Walz is just way more annoying than Evers is. Evers is just like kind of just your left-wing grandpa kind of. That's the way I see him. And Tim Walz is just like weird as fuck. Okay. Like that's the way I see it. But yeah, thank you guys. I think actual last call for super chats. If not, we're going to end the stream. We're going to thank everyone for watching. Thank you to Real American for allowing me to stream on this channel. I think we had a pretty good first stream. Again, next time I stream will be in the evening, and I will have guests on. So it won't just be me schizophrenically ranting at a camera with Iran and Israel in the background. We'll have some more stuff. So yeah, guys, thank you all for watching. Be sure to leave a like. Be sure to sub to Real American. And as always, Godspeed to all of you. I think that was the rap line he always does. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. And also, don't forget, John Rose and Tyrone Powers will be live here on Real American Politics tonight to talk about and react to the New York